So this is lunch time, or, a little 30-minute gentle yoga class. You're going to start in, welcome, welcome by the way. You're going to start in a simple seated position. This can be just a simple cross-legged position. If you like a half lotus, you can do that. And then just kind of rock so that you're on the tips of your sit bones. If you tend to find that your pelvis leans backwards, take something like a throw pillow or a blanket. Sit and kind of scoot yourself right to the edge of it so that the only thing kind of hanging onto it is your sit bones. This will tilt your pelvis a little bit and it'll make it a little easier for some of us to sit upright. And so I like a blanket folded up that's a little more firm than a pillow, but the pillow works. And then just close your eyes, let yourself, or you can close your eyes almost all the way. You can have that little tiny slit. But allow yourself to just pause and breathe. Let the shoulders relax. You can let the arms reach out to the sides and rest. You can rest them on your knees. You can cup one palm inside the other. So just finding a place where you sort of allow yourself to get centered. We're going to take a nice big breath. And then if you can exhale forward into a forward bend, do that. The leg that's in front, we're going to go that direction first. You're going to reach your arm out and open up into a side bend. And then I'm going to roll the side bend forward a little bit, and I might even sort of cat back a little. And then roll it back. And then roll it forward. And roll it back. I'm just doing half the breath with each of those movements. And then we're going to come up and we're going to twist towards that leg. So that knee that's on top or that leg that's in the front, just twist in that direction. If you've got, a support and you want to put your hand on that, that's fine. I have short arms, so either I put a block there if I want my palm on the ground, or I just do a couple little fingertips. I'm going to take a nice big breath and then come on out of there. Now you're going to lean back and then undo your legs and give your legs a little movement. You can leave the pillow there if you want to. All right, so then we're going to try to cross the legs the other direction. Now this is where things get tricky. Some of us will find it's really easy to put the other leg up front, and for some of us, you'll find it's very awkward. I am always more comfortable with my left leg in front than with my right leg in front. However, I've done enough of this that it doesn't feel horrible to have my right leg in front. It's definitely different. And there's a little more resistance that I can feel. So I'm going to fold forward. I'm going to reach that arm out to the side, and then I'm going to take myself into the side bend, rolling kind of open and down, and maybe even giving myself that little bit of a hunchy cat kind of back, rolling it open. Half the breath with one shape and then half the breath with the other shape. The first side I inhaled on the hunchy back. This time I'm exhaling that way. So then we'll come up. Because it doesn't matter so much which choice you make. It's just interesting to see what happens when you make a choice. So twisting, and I don't twist as far to my right as I do to my left. There's a little more resistance. I have a little teeny tiny scoliosis, kind of, just slightly out of the normal S curve on one side. It's not dramatic. It's just enough that I notice the change. And then sitting up nice and tall, you may have quite dramatic curves in your spine that don't match the anatomical models. And so you just adjust your body. If one side isn't the way that you can't twist one way because it's problematic, don't twist that way. Just pause, sit up tall, do your thing. You want to accommodate, the yoga should accommodate you rather than you accommodating the yoga. And then we're going to take one more big breath and release that shape. And again, we're going to lean back, undo the legs, and give everything a little bit of a rinse. Now, I'm going to leave my legs more or less straight, not too wide, not too narrow. just so I have a little bit of room, because it's easier for me to tilt my pelvis back and forth if I let my legs kind of hang out in front rather than cross-legged. So I'm going to roll back. I'm going to curl my tailbone under, hug that navel in, round my back. And then I'm going to scoop forward, lift, and bring the breastbone up. So I'm getting that kind of shape like a cobra and like a cat. Oh. Now, just 2 or 3 more of those. And then we're going to try to isolate the movement of the ribs. So you're going to try to hold your pelvis mostly steady and move the ribs side to side to start with. Just see if you can find that movement of the rib cage moving. And if that works, then you can try this little swirl. So we're going to take the ribs back, move them out to the side, move them forward, move them back, trying to isolate the rib cage. This helps relieve tension that lives in the back in this area. Go the other direction. Sometimes we get so stiff and tight in the back muscles that the ribs don't want to move. And so you might be feeling all that resistance, especially when there are times of anxiety. We may not sleep the same way. We may hold ourselves with a lot more tension and stress. So, these little rib movements are very helpful. So little washing machine rib movement. This one's my favorite for rinsing out tension. If I do it standing up, I let my arms flail about. But sitting down is a little bit harder to let the arms flail. They won't run into things. Okay, that's good. All right, yogis. Now, we're going to take the legs out into a V, and you're going to pick one leg and bend it. Okay. You can bring your foot in as close as it wants to go. Try to keep the thighs in a V. So if I bring my foot all the way over to this leg, I'm no longer in that big wide V. So I just leave it out there in the middle. It's helpful to me to have a little support under that knee. Sometimes I'll modify that as we go along. And it's also helpful for me to use a little blanket just tucked under the edge of this knee. So it's not super bent. Some of you may want that knee quite bent. I'm just going for a little bit of a bend. Now we're going to do 3 different flavors of forward bend here. So first I'm going to turn towards this, and I'm turning with my waist, and then I'm folding forward. Now when I fold forward here, the sit bone comes up off the floor. That's natural. What I am going to do is play with it. So leaning in and letting myself rest heavy on this thigh, I'm going to see what happens if I try to press that sit bone down and then let it get loose. Okay. And then I'm going to find a spot, like I'm feeling. It's a whole palette of sensation. And I'm looking for the one spot that feels like the interesting color to pause with. So, I'm liking this spot right in the middle, right about there. So I feel just enough sensation starting to creep into my hamstrings that it's interesting, but not so much that I'm taking away from this sensation that I'm having over here of kind of the pressure and the compression that I'm holding out with. So we're going to do 2 more breaths with whatever you just discovered. And I have flared my toes out because that's interesting. You can also let that foot be more relaxed. Okay, so then we're going to come up with an inhale. And when you get here, you're just going to pause for a moment and notice. So I notice that it feels like I'm still turning that direction. I notice that this thigh, now that I'm no longer pressing my ribs and my belly into this thigh, that feels a little interesting and light. And I definitely feel the release of tension from my hamstrings and inner thigh right there. So now we're going straight down the center. And so I might, again, adjust the pelvis a little bit to make it even and feel like it's stable. Always with yoga poses, we want stability, and we also want a sense of sweetness or a sense of well-being in a pose. If it feels like you're straining, that's too much. Back off a little bit. If you are training for the circus and you intend to do all kinds of interesting contortionist, aerialist, arm balance on a wire kind of things, you're going to need to push a little bit because those are weird. But for normal yoga with everyday people, don't strain. That's not worth it. So we're finding this middle zone. And this is, for me today, it's very light. Sometimes it's very spicy in my inner thigh. I'm not feeling a lot of that today. You might be feeling that. So we got one more big breath here. And then, we'll come back up. Big inhale. And kind of fill up as you come up. That helps. So we're going to leave the legs where they are, but I'm just going to jiggle them a little bit. And then we're going to do our last flavor. So the last flavor is going to point me over this leg, and I'm actually going to pull that sit bone back a little so that it turns my pelvis. Okay. So the other side, I didn't want the pelvis turned. With this one, I'm going to let it turn a little bit because I'm going to see if I can get to the outside of this leg. And so letting my pelvis come with me is helpful so that I don't pull my sacroiliac joints too hard. So I'm taking my hand to the outside edge. I'm letting myself fall across the leg. If you want to stay more to the inside, that's fine. So it's just a choice. Make a choice that seems interesting. What I am really into, I did this earlier today and I'm doing it again because I like it. When I reach the arm across and hold on tight and then bend the elbow, it pulls a stretch into my shoulder and up under my shoulder blade that I find very pleasant. And so I already know that can be there, so I'm seeking it out. You might discover what's going on for you. The way that I found that was by goofing off in a yoga pose, like, ooh, that feels nice. Now I know it's there, I can come back to it. Take one more big breath. And then you're going to release anything you're holding on to. We're going to inhale our way up. And then just pause and feel. So we're going to stretch out the leg that was bent, maybe bend the leg that was straight. Do some of those little cat shapes. Cat and cobra. And then pause for a moment. Now, what's interesting to me is just watching when I've done one side, but I haven't done the other. This shoulder and collarbone actually feels lower than this shoulder and collarbone. I feel like I'm doing that. I'm not, but it feels that way. I don't know why that is true, but it is. I'm also noticing just kind of the sensations in my back and in my hips, making sure everything feels reasonable. So I'm going out into this V, and I'm going to switch. So this is going to become my bent knee. I'm going to put my pillow there for support. Hi. All right, that's not particularly welcome, but I understand. So we're going to turn and go over this knee. Sappy. We're going to go over here. So I'm leaning in. I'm feeling the sit bone. I'm gonna have to do some corrections in a moment, but we'll stop here. We'll keep going here for a second. Okay, so I'm pressing down into the sit bone, kind of leaning out. And then you're gonna inhale, let yourself come all the way up. And then pause for a moment and feel how that landed you. Now, you're going to go straight down the center. I'm going to do a little housekeeping, and then I'm going to join you. Because I have a very old ferret who apparently had to go. Saf. Muffin. All right, so you're gonna take a nice big breath. Hopefully you are still hanging out with your pose. And then you'll come up this way. Give yourself a moment to pause, and then we'll go the other way. So, get my mic back on. I'm going to adjust the pelvis. So I'm going to take my pelvis back this way. I'm going to lean over this leg. I'm going to reach across and find that kind of stretch by taking my elbow out and working through my shoulder blade. I don't want to pull too hard or be too aggressive. I just want to begin that sort of feeling of tractioning out through the shoulder. And then breathing nice and deep. Take a nice deep breath. Let go with a big sigh, and then we're going to inhale our way up. Oh, and once you get there, then you can add just that little bit of movement. Change the legs. A little movement back and forth. All right. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to lay down on my belly. But before I do that, actually I'll put these over to the side here because I'm going to want these later for Shavasana. And I'm also going to want a yoga strap. If you don't have a yoga strap handy, you can use a dog leash, a towel, a blanket, whatever you happen to have. You can also just hold onto your leg with your hands. It'll work out. But I'm going to want that when we get done with this cobra stuff we're going to do. So I'm going to put that off to the side so that I've got it ready to go. So I'm going to lay down on the mat with my belly down. And because I'm going to pinch the microphone, I'm going to move it over here. All right, so then we're going to plant the legs nice and firm. And planting the palms about in line with the chest muscles. Palms nice and flat, elbows back. Inhale, lift into cobra. Now I'm using my back muscles and then coming back down. Because I was just bent over in a forward bendy kind of shape, I'm not doing this aggressively. I'm lifting just enough just to feel that change, and then I'm coming back down. This is prep, okay? So we're going to reach through the legs, lift. So I got a little higher that time because my back is feeling a little different. Lift, right? Pull back through the elbows. I try not to strain my neck by jerking my chin up. I just let it go along for the ride. So one more time. And then I'm going to slide myself into this kind of Sphinx position. Now, I'm going to do a stretch for my quads. I'm going to use the strap to do it. Some of you will be able to reach back and grab hold of your foot quite easily. For me, having the strap makes it a little bit more gentle and a little more approachable for my knee joint. So first I have to lasso my foot, and then I'm going to hold my straps. So I've got both ends like that. Okay. Then holding the strap over my shoulder, I can create however much space in my knee joint I need so that I can do this. Then once I'm there, I'm going to press my foot into the strap, press my hip into the floor, and then try to lift my thigh off the ground. Now, sometimes just holding the foot is enough. Like, you're going to feel enough sensation in your quad. You're going to feel enough sensation in the leg. You don't want to strain your back or strain the knee. So we're trying to find the right happy balance to feel that stretch on the top of the thigh so we can get the quads. We're going to do the rest of the leg in a second. Well, it'll be a couple minutes. So nice big breath here. And then we're going to let that go. Coming around, I'm going to stick my foot in this strap and see if I can do this with just one little motion. There we go. And then take it up over my other shoulder. Okay, so again, I'm going to feel out. How does my knee feel today? Can I pull that heel closer to me? Press the hip into the ground, lift the thigh so that I'm feeling that on the top of my thigh and the front of my hip. And then just breathe in. Because this one involves compression in the low back, I don't hold it as long as I'm going to hold the ones that we do with our legs. But I do like to hold it for at least a minute. 90 seconds is better because it lets the nervous system kind of go through a full check-in and then really start to soften the muscle. So I'm going to take 2 more breaths. And then I'm going to gently let that leg come down, and I'm going to take the strap away, and I can rinse out both my legs with little windshield wipers. And then, keeping the strap handy, I'm going to flip upside down. Oh. Okay. Now, once you're upside down, you can decide whether you're going to leave the leg that you're not working with totally out straight, or if you want to take your pillow or your blanket and put that under the leg you're not going to work with. I like to do this. It's just more comfortable. It lets that hip flexor really relax so that I can focus on the leg that I've got in the strap. So if you've got a leash and you have a little loop for your hand, you can put your foot in the hand loop. If you've got a regular yoga strap and there's a buckle, you can put the strap through the buckle so that you have a loop, and that makes it a little easier to work with. So you're going to put the loop around your foot. You can put your buckle to the side and then put your hand through the loop like that. That makes it easier to hold on to. If you have arthritis in your hands and you've got a long enough strap, you can put the strap under your back so that you don't even have to hold on to it. So I'm going to use this method today. And I've made the loop big enough that I can hold my leg here fairly comfortably. If I rotate my leg that way, it's a little different sensation than if I rotate it that way. If I pull my toes down and push up on the heel, a little more calf. If I point the toes, a little more just hamstrings. Okay, so we're going to stay here for a bit, about another minute. So again, because I'm laying on my back and I'm pretty relaxed and my low back isn't in any kind of compressive state, I can stay a little longer with this stretch than I do the quads. I'd still like to try to creep the quads towards a minute and a half. It's just sometimes it's more than my back wants to deal. Depends on how I've slept or if I've had lots of time on the computer. Okay, so now we're going to take a nice big breath here. And we're going to take the leg out to the side. I'm going to work with my furniture here. You're going to work with your furniture there. So once you've got a little inner thigh stretch, that's good. You can put something under your hip, like a block or a pillow, to give yourself a landing pad. I could rest on this piece of furniture if I wanted to. I'm going to try to hover above it. So I'm actively actually holding my hips stable here. So I'm digging deep in my abs, and the way that you get to the deeper abdominal muscles, the transverse abdominis, is not by squeezing the belly back or trying to lift at the diaphragm. It really is, it's almost like a corset. So you're going to draw the sides of your waist in, and that will give you the structure and support to help hold your hips steady. We're going to stay for about 30 more seconds. So just allowing that kind of sense of your core stabilizing you. Get you a little extra core work. And that's really how we're supposed to work the abdominals for optimal body mechanics. Is abdominal muscles are meant to be stabilizers, mostly for the spine, but the spine and the pelvis as well. They're not necessarily supposed to be primary movers. So when we train the abs mostly through crunches or sit-ups where they're moving you, it's not terrible. It's some kind of movement. It just can lead to some dysfunctions for your back. All right, so we're coming back to the center, and now I'm going to let go of the loop for a second because I'm going to switch hands. So we're going to take this leg across the body into a reclining twist. And I'm going to find the spot that feels like I get this nice kind of outer hip IT band. It might be all the way up here. It might be more parallel. You're going to see, should I roll the thighs so my toes go that way? Should I roll the thighs so my toes go down? You can reach out through that bottom leg or bend it. And then I'm going to try to get my upper back on the floor and reach this arm out. So I get a little bit more through my pec right here as I bring my leg around. If my shoulder pops up off the floor, that's probably more than I need to go, so I could pause there. So we're staying for about 45 more seconds, not too crazy. Those nice deep breaths. All right, we got 2 more breaths here. Okay, so with that exhale, draw your navel in, stabilize as best you can through the sides of the waist. Come on back, bend your knee, set the strap to the side for a second, or just, lay it across your belly. And then we're going to rinse out this leg and let that leg stretch out beside the other. And then notice if there's any tenderness. Notice if it feels softer or more pleasant. Oh, it feels softer and more pleasant. So I'm definitely up for the other side. So to do that, I'm going to just pop that pillow in. You could just leave your leg laying there. You're going to take your strap around the ball of your foot and then maybe turn the buckle so it doesn't land on your hand. And I might need a tiny bit more room for this side. Let's feel it a little sharper. Oh, okay. So then once you've got your stretch where you like it, you're holding onto your strap. You can play with the foot, with the rotation, pausing here. And you can stretch into, like if I press my heel up, oh, that feels amazing. I love the calf stretch. About 45 more seconds here. All right, so we're going out to the side. And again, you can anchor, we can draw the sides of the waist in, try to keep that hip nice and stable. You can put support under this leg if you like, a pillow, a blanket, block, piece of furniture, edge of the couch. Use what you got, man. Again, about 45 more seconds here. If you need to bend your knee and straighten the leg and then bend it, or just hold it at a bend. You can also back off, come back to here, or go all the way down to there. It's your pose. So we're going to take a nice big breath. Let go. And then inhale your way back. And again, we're going to switch hands and we're going to go over for the twist. And this is where I might run into my furniture. So I'm going to pause right there. And I'm going to let myself reach my arm out. So I'm just working with the space I've got. Sometimes you have really tiny places. You might be practicing like between your bed and your wall, or on your tiny little side balcony, whatever you got at your house. Just work around your space. It's nice to have a giant yoga studio with big rooms and lots of space in between everybody, but it doesn't always work out that way. And sometimes in life, I've been practicing only at home. And so it's nice to just allow yourself to recognize that any yoga practice is delightful. It doesn't have to only happen when it's perfect. I'm going to turn my head this way because I'm not twisted around as far. It feels really pleasant. And we're going to stay for about 30 more seconds, so we're getting close. And I'm kind of drawing my hip down away from my rib cage as best I can, using the strap for a little bit of leverage there. It gives me that little extra bit of stretch that I'm not getting from going over as far. It's really subtle, but it really works. You don't have to move big for yoga poses to have a lot of impact. You can do very tiny, subtle movement. All right, take a big breath. And then we're going to come on back. Now, this is the point where you might want to go get yourself some lunch. So you might just stretch out your legs and pause here for 3 or 4 breaths. Oh, that feels nice, yogis. Or you might stay for a whole shavasana. Maybe you have a little bit more flexibility in your time as to how long you can be in the space you're in. So I'm going to roll over and say goodbye to you, but you can carry on as you like. So your practice can end there, or it can turn into a meditation. Oh, it can turn into laundry, as it will happen at my house. But you're going to take a nice big breath. You let go with a really big and settle into Shavasana or go about your day. Thank you for joining me for lunchtime. Gentle. Namaste.